welcome back to my channel. If you are a subscriber of mine already, then you probably know me from having healthy habits, working towards a healthier lifestyle. But hey, I'm more than one thing. I also love to bake. So tonight we are going to make red velvet cupcakes. The sun has gone down, lighting's a little off, but we're gonna give it a go. These are about as easy as a baking recipe as you're gonna get. You literally add all the wet things together, add all the dry things together, mix those two things together, and bake. It's magic. This recipe is from the Sugar Geek Show. She is a great pastry chef. I love a lot of her recipes, and that is a great source if you love to bake. Trying any of her recipes, you're probably going to be in really good hands. Her white velvet cake, so good. So we're going to go ahead and make this batter real quick and put them into muffin tins. I have these little cupcake holders that I just got from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to top these cupcakes off with just a little bit of edible sugar, as well as an emblem that I used with a wax sealer. This is the kind of seal that you would buy if you were doing one of those old school envelopes where you'd melt your wax and then put the seal in it. I bought this from Hobby Lobby. It was $20, but then I got it when it was the 50% off. So I spent $10, and this comes with all of the alphabet. So for any occasion you have a cute little stamp. I'm using a chocolate fondant. I'm gonna mix a little bit of alcohol with some gold dust and paint them so they look like little gold wax seals on top of our cupcakes. Feel free to use any kind of fondant you'd like or any kind of decorations. You can use normal sprinkles. This is how I'm topping mine for a little bit more of a elegant class, since these are for a grown man. So I hope you enjoyed these.
I prefer to weigh my dry ingredients. It's just a more accurate reading instead of using cups. But if all you have is cups, feel free to use that. You probably have a scale if you're on WW. I got a little too much in there, so I scooped it back out with a spoon. I was looking for 397 grams of sugar and now 397 grams of flour. I'm just going to add those together. Again, this is the simplest recipe possible. I like to weigh my stuff separately just because if I get too much, I can easily spoon it back out. Now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of our cocoa powder. Red Velvet has a couple unique characteristics, one of which is just a small amount of cocoa powder. The other one is that it uses baking soda. This is 1 teaspoon of baking soda and salt, but it uses a combo of baking soda and vinegar to help give it its rise, giving it a unique flavor. And I'm just going to mix all these dry ingredients together and go put this on my stand mixer so that it's ready to mix in with the wet ingredients. Now, all of these are room temperature. It's very important that everything you have is starting room temperature. I have 2 eggs already mixed into my 1 cup of buttermilk because I broke the shell and I just wanted to go ahead and throw it in there. Then I'm going to add my 4 ounces of oil plus my 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. Again, it's not red velvet cake without the vinegar, guys. Plus, you won't have a good rise. So add that. That was a ½ tablespoon measuring cup, which is why I did it twice. And then I'm going to add my butter that is been melted but also cooled. I'm also apparently looking for my food coloring that I could not find. So here we are. I have this red food coloring from Hobby Lobby. I bought a big one because I used to bake for a living, but now I don't. So feel free to buy the small one or just the one that you can get at the regular grocery store on the baking aisle. That will work as well. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. We're going to mix this together. You're going to see the beautiful red color. That one from Hobby Lobby, the gel one, does get it much more vibrant red. So if that's what you're looking for, go with a gel food coloring. They're much more intense in color. Now, I accidentally skipped to this part because I didn't show me adding the liquid, but I literally just poured it in here and then mixed slowly. I didn't realize I had my whisk attachment on until this point. And then I'm trying to tell you, hey, use your paddle, not your whisk. It just helps get a little less air in it. It was still fine. It turned out perfectly great, but I do prefer the paddle on this. And you're just going to mix it on medium for about a minute till everything is well incorporated. This is such a luscious recipe. I'm showing you here the texture. It's a nice, thick, velvety texture. Just appropriately named, in my opinion. Now let's turn these into cupcakes. I like to use an ice cream scoop to measure out my batter. Most ice cream scoops are about 1/4 of a cup or 2-ounce scoops, which is the perfect amount of batter for your cupcakes. This batter will make 24 cupcakes. I did get a little heavy-handed on some of them, so you see at the last 2 cupcakes, I have to kind of maneuver around a little bit of batter from some of the thicker ones. That is normal. It happens. None of us are perfect. So if this happens to you, hey, you're still good to go. I cooked these at 335 for 18 minutes. Normally, I cook cupcakes for 20 minutes, but check them at 18, and I'm very happy I did because these were perfect at 18 minutes for my oven. All of our ovens cook differently, so make sure to check it when it feels right to you. When these do come out of the oven, you're going to leave them in the pans for about 10 minutes and then remove them so that they stop cooking. Look how beautiful these rounded tops are. And then just going to rest on my cutting board to cool down completely before adding any kind of frosting. Now onto our cream cheese frosting. This is 2 sticks of butter that I'm just beating until it's completely smooth, about a minute on medium. And now I'm adding 12 ounces of softened cream cheese. You want these things to be room temperature, but not overly warm where they're kind of waxy. If you've ever had like oily butter, that's not going to give you a good consistency, so make sure they're not quite that warm. Now I'm adding 26 ounces of powdered sugar, 1 cup at a time, beating and scraping in between each addition of powdered sugar. Now, this should be sifted. I didn't. I was tired. I don't always sift, especially if it's like going in between a cake that won't be seen and it's for my family. I don't always sift. Now I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of orange extract. Yes, I said orange extract. That is unique to this recipe from Sugar Geek, and I love it. I think it just makes it a little bit more interesting. Then I just beat it until it's super fluffy, about 4 minutes there at the end. And look how luxurious this cream cheese frosting is. This is the reason why you eat red velvet cake. It's not because of the 2 tablespoons of chocolate. It's because it has cream cheese on it. I stand by my statement. Now we are about to pipe our cupcakes, but I think a lot of people have a really hard time piping cupcakes. They don't know why they can't get it to look like the bakery. And I'm telling you, it's not you, it's the tip you're using. This is an Ateco 867 tip. This is the size I use. I'm going to show you the largest size you can get from Hobby Lobby. The largest size. Do you see how much smaller that tip is? That's why your cupcakes look sad. It's not because you have bad piping technique. I'm just showing you the difference, like how much larger my tip is. You can order this online. If I can find it on Amazon, I'll link it below. I'm going to use a gallon-sized bag to put my icing in. I just cut a good-sized hole on the corner and then feed my tip in and then put that into a cup to help me fill it. This is the best, quickest way to fill your icing bag where you're not trying to do it one-handed. And then you're going to twist the top of it to hold the pressure on to the frosting. And you're going to, every time you get a little bit lower, add an extra twist in your bag. You'll see me doing that here. Every time I pipe 1 or 2, I twist the bag again. So I'm putting a small amount in the middle of my cupcake and then making 2 quick circles around, releasing the pressure as I'm on that second circle so that I don't have extra coming out of my tip. Here is a new angle. Thank you to my daughter who's standing there holding it for me. Add a little bit to the center and then do a small swirl up. And I'm going to come this way so you can actually see more of it. Just 2 small circles in the center, releasing right there so that no more is coming out. Here is how they look. This is like a French tip for like a French pastry. Now you see I'm going to add my sprinkles into the cap of the sprinkles just as a reservoir to hold it. That way I can actually dictate exactly how much sprinkles I want. This ended up being a little bit yellowy compared to the gold that I brushed onto my medallions. So hindsight, I might have just not added the glitter, but I didn't know that at this point because I didn't paint my medallions until the next morning. But here we are, adding whatever kind of sprinkle you like. Now I need to put these in the fridge overnight, so I went ahead and put them in their containers. There's lots of options out there nowadays that you can find at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michael's. I believe this container came from Hobby Lobby. I only had one of these clear containers, so I used one of them for the ones that were going to be decorated since this is clear and you can see them as I gave him his cupcakes. And then I used more of a natural looking one for the other dozen that he could throw in his freezer and pull them out as he wants them. These come together really quickly. You basically just pop them open and then add the insert in. You're going to see me struggle here because it's like 10:30 at this point and I am so over these cupcakes, but they're not in the fridge yet, so I can't be done. Okay, get them in there, please, and go to bed. This is how I prefer to package things for special events, just because I think it looks so much cuter. Looks more put together. I'd put my butter and burlap sticker on there, some like tulle to make a bow, and it looks so cute and put together. So if you're going to like a baby shower and you're bringing something, or if it's for Mother's Day. Why am I cleaning right now? Okay. It's that constantly keep your workspace clean mentality, still just ingrained in me, guys. There we go. And one of them hit the oven as they come out. It came out of the oven, so my family ate that one, and they were very happy to eat that one. Now, this is footage for me earlier in the day. If you're making a fondant detail, you can do that a whole week in advance, even a few weeks in advance, and they're going to be perfectly fine when you need them. It's a good way to split up how you're using your time. I needed it just to make it smooth, and then dusted my area with powdered sugar so that nothing sticks. And I'm using a plunger cutter that basically when you cut it, it also has a little plunger to help pop it back out of the cutter. That's all I'm doing. I picked one that was pretty close to the size of my wax seals, one that was slightly smaller, because I wanted, as I pushed that wax seal down, to get those uneven edges, just like you would if you're using actual wax. Keep your stuff covered, your fondant covered with plastic wrap or in a plastic bag, because fondant will dry out quickly. That's my daughter begging for a piece of fondant there. Now I'm going to put together my little wax seal. I did A for his name, which is Owl. And then because I'm painting these, I gave it a good dusting of powdered sugar so it didn't stick. If you weren't painting these, you might not want to be so aggressive with the powdered sugar. Maybe use Crisco or like some kind of, cooking oil. Coconut oil, very small layer, could also work. But I'm painting these, so I didn't care if they had that white dusting. And then I said, to heck with this, I'm tired, and we just went to town on it. Pressing each one, making sure the indention's in there, pulling it off very slowly so as not to damage it. And then I let these sit overnight so they got, hard, so that as I painted them, it would not damage the A or mess anything up. So here's me finishing these little stamps, and you'll see me here in just a minute come back the next day and paint these.
Now that it's the next day and my fondant has had plenty of time to dry, I'm going to go ahead and paint it with that gold luster dust. Make sure it says luster and not highlight. Highlight is going to mean it's not edible. So if you do use highlight, it's not toxic to touch the cake or the cupcakes, but it shouldn't be eaten by your guests. So just make sure to keep that in mind. I do love this brand here. I will leave a link down below. Their stuff is edible as long as you're not using the highlight, and they will let you know in the description if it's edible or not.
Now that they are dry, I'm going to remove them to a wax paper. It just helps clean up because that dust can get everywhere. I'm going to use a dry brush that's very soft just to dust as much of the powdered sugar off of them. If you did not want to paint these, you could just dust the powdered sugar off of them and then brush a little bit of Everclear or vodka on them to help get rid of the white cast of the sugar. This is that sugar art that I was mentioning. I love their products. This is the Wedding Gold. I'm adding a couple scoops into my little container here with a little bit of Everclear. This is my preferred one because I use it to paint like royal frosting. So this one doesn't give me divots into my frosting that I do. That's why I use it. But for fondant, you could use lemon extract or vodka or any kind of clear alcohol that you have. And you're just going to mix it together until it's a paint mixture. If you put too much alcohol in there, just give it about 5 minutes. It'll start to evaporate, and it might be the right consistency. If it's too patchy, then put a little bit more alcohol in there. It's just kind of a give or take. It's a process that as you learn it and you do it, you kind of learn what texture works best for you, what consistency works best for you. And then I just use a brush to paint it on. If I had a lot of these, I would have had to add a little bit more alcohol midway through because it does evaporate so quickly. These are safe for kids to eat. The vodka evaporates and is gone. So don't worry about kids eating these. And when it's gone, it just allows this really thin layer of this glorious gold powder to sit there and look marvelous. You can actually make this thinner and like use it as a splatter. It looks beautiful on cakes, cupcakes. I probably should have splattered my cupcakes instead of using the sprinkles, had I known my sprinkles are going to be so off in color. Now when I'm ready to move them, I just like to use a spatula. I let these dry before adding them to my cupcakes. You see here me using a spatula. These cupcakes just came out of the fridge, so I used the warmth of my finger to hold it on top for just a minute so they don't go anywhere. The perfectionist in me is dying about these two different tones of gold, but my grandpa loved them, so I gotta get over it.
And there you have it, simple but delicious red velvet cupcakes. I hope you give this recipe a try the next time you're looking for a red velvet cupcake or cake. It's delicious. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.